Hello, my name is Cody Haddad. I'm Town Administrator here in Dartmouth. Today I'm joined by Gary Ferraro, our Director of Budget and Finance. Gary, how are you?
Great, thanks Cody for having me.
Thank you for being here. Today we're going to go over the fall annual town meeting warrant. Town meeting will be on Tuesday, October 21st at Dartmouth High School. Town meeting will begin promptly at 7 p.m. Check-in begins as early as 6 p.m., so we encourage our town meeting members to get there as close to 6, get checked in and be prepared so we can begin town meeting right at 7. Before we dig into the warrant and give you an overview, I just wanted to provide an introduction of myself as your new town administrator. Like I said, my name is Cody Haddad. I previously served in another community as town administrator for 2.5 years. Prior to that, I was the assistant town administrator here in Dartmouth, so I'm certainly no stranger to the community. Excited to be back and excited to have my first town meeting here as town administrator. So why don't we dig into the warrant. We have 14 articles on the warrant for the fall town meeting. Many of them you will be familiar with as we dig in, housekeeping articles that we like to say. So the first article is a Community Preservation Act article. It is to fund $22,800 towards a project at the Aiken House for cellar and moisture mitigation. This will come from the Historic Preservation Reserve, which is part of those CPC funds. Article 2 is an appropriation to our stabilization fund in the amount of $250,000. Gary, why don't you explain what exactly a stabilization fund is?
Thanks Cody. Most communities have a stabilization fund. What it is like the town savings account, also known as a rainy day account. We use free cash, which we get certified every year to fund this account. Currently we have about a $13.1 million balance in that account, and it's looked favorably every year when we can put money aside by the rating agencies. So we continue that this year with this town meeting with $250,000 to complement that.
Excellent. Article 3 is an appropriation to the Stabilization Fund for collective bargaining and non-union agreements. So this is something the town created a number of years ago. This is another form of a stabilization fund. This is for $650,000, and this would complement the approximately $399,000 that's already in there. And what exactly is this account used for?
Some of the residents may have heard we're going through a class and comp study. And what will happen with this is this will complement what's in there, bringing us up to about $1 million to allow us to address that class and comp study, to remain competitive. We talk about remaining competitive in town with employees that we hire, and potentially have this over a couple of years, multiple years to address the class and comp study.
Excellent. Good. So that'll put the balance up over $1 million.
Correct.
Excellent. One thing I think that's important for our community to understand too is we have 3 articles here that are related to a stabilization fund. And that really is just putting the money aside, right? In town meeting ultimately actually has to reappropriate that money out of the stabilization fund in the future. So, once that money is ready to be appropriated for a use, it'll come back to town meeting for a town meeting to vote on at that time. So Article 4 is another stabilization fund. This one is for our long-term capital in the amount of $500,000. You may recall at a previous town meeting, we actually withdrew that money, $500,000, for a project at the schools for the sprinkler system. And so this is essentially replenishing that account back to $1 million. Right. So after this $500,000, there'll be $1 million in that account.
Correct.
Good, very good. So Articles 5 and 6 are really unique. If you've been a town meeting member here in Dartmouth for some time, you probably have not seen an article like this. We have not had to do an article like this in the past in Dartmouth. We have several enterprise funds, and enterprise funds are really made to operate like a business where the ratepayers support their operations. So no general tax dollars are utilized for that to fund the operation. And so Article 5 is to fund a prior year deficit in our water enterprise fund in the amount of $102,823. Due to several circumstances just beyond our control, we have several wells that are down. We had to purchase a significant amount of our water from the city of New Bedford, much more than we could have anticipated, much more than we've had to in the past. And ultimately, we ended up spending more money than we brought in fiscal year 25, which ended June 30th of this year. And we ran a deficit of $102,823, and we need to use the retained earnings account from water to cover that deficit. So there's currently $240,000 approximately in there.
Correct.
And once we make this appropriation, we'll have about $140,000 left.
Remaining.
So, and we are certainly aware this is a concern, and we recognize that our residents will be concerned about this and should be concerned about this. But I can assure you that myself and Gary and our entire leadership team here in the town are focusing on this to make sure that we do not run a deficit again, and making sure that we can continue to provide high quality operations to our community in our water department. Article 6 is again another deficit that we are having to cover from fiscal 25. This one is for our solid waste enterprise fund in the amount of $4,306. So we're not as worried about this one. Really more of a budgeting oversight. We need to make a small adjustment in the next year. But those retained earnings account, it's still pretty healthy.
They have a healthy reserve of about $995,000.
Okay, excellent. So not really concerned there, but we'll certainly keep an eye on this. We want to make sure this doesn't happen again in the future. Article 7 is one of those articles that I had mentioned is a housekeeping article, right? Where we always have a capital plan, particularly in the fall, and we have a capital planning committee, and they met vigorously with all of the departments that submitted these, vetted these requests. The reality is we only have so much money to appropriate, and we have several requests. And so I want to say kudos, I think, to the capital planning committee for going through, prioritizing requests, working with the department heads, and making sure that we're funding what's necessary. So do you want to walk through each of these departments and some of these requests?
So just to go through a little bit of the process, as you mentioned, Cody, the CIPC Capital Improvement Plan Committee meets every year, both for the fall and spring town meetings. We request the information from the departments. The departments then rank those projects on a priority level and submit those to myself, and then ultimately on to CIPC. CIPC meets and then prioritizes those projects to best fit with the funds that we receive. Most of these articles are funded by free cash, as you know. This year we had a record amount of free cash, so we were able to do a lot for the departments, and also on the water and sewer, that's retained earnings, but in essence it's a form of free cash.
Right.
So I can go through a couple of these with you. We can go down the list.
Yeah.
Dartmouth Public Schools, security upgrades for $285,000. Flooring and replacement to replace some of the asbestos tiles that are in some of the schools, $100,000. That's an ongoing project. Playground improvements, $100,000. Technology and hardware for $200,000. Dartmouth Police Department looking to replace 4 mock police cruisers. As you know, every year they go through a process where they're replacing a lot of their cruisers that have high mileage and that are not as efficient. The cruisers that we're purchasing now are hybrids, so a little bit better on mileage and maintenance to save the town a little bit there. And replacement of the 80 firearms or the inventory for $67,200. DPW admin, DPW asset management program, $100,000. Crossroad Phase 2 design for $150,000. An efficiency study for $60,000, and the GAP grant matching fund for $40,000.
I think that's important to know is if you look at the DPW administration requests, the DPW asset management program is actually a grant match. So the town has been awarded $150,000 a grant to undertake this project, and our contribution is $100,000. So it's certainly a win for us. We're getting a $250,000 benefit, and it's only costing us $100,000.
Right. Yep.
And very similar with the GAP grant matching funding. This is a grant that we're getting, and this is just our contribution. The grant to contribute towards the other part of this project is well over $100,000. So two quality investments, I feel, that we are actually making out financially from other funds.
Yes. DPW Highway Division, they're looking for a Freightliner, 28,000 gross value weight with plow truck replacement, $196,000, and a 34,400 gross value weight dump truck with plow and sander replacement for $270,000. DPW Engineering Division is a pickup truck replacement for $45,000. DPW Construction Division, a Freightliner, $25,000 GVW dump truck with plow. That's also a replacement for $196,000. We move on to Parks and Recreation. Community Park Playground resurfacing, $421,805. The Allen Street Garage repairs, we've been looking to fund that. Finally, we can do that this year for $400,000. And Round Hill Beach automatic gate, $14,220.
You mentioned the Allen Street Garage repairs, which is important because town meeting members may actually be familiar with this because this has showed up on town meeting previously. What we've experienced, which I'm sure all of you are aware of and seen with record inflation, right, is a lot of these projects that we procured or started to procure under one figure, we actually go out to bid and the figure ends up being significantly higher. So This is basically additional funding, the $400,000, so we can see this project through. It's an investment, we feel, in our equipment, in our property, because the garage that's there now actually is not conducive to our operation. The garage doors in many cases aren't even tall enough for us to get some of our equipment in. So we're not able to protect this equipment that we're investing in. So I just wanted to mention that because town meeting members may see this and say, wait, I think we've done this before. So this is really just additional funding to cover. Unfortunately, it just costs us a lot more.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Cody, to protect the assets that we have for the department, keeping those out of the weather, keeping them secure at night. So
absolutely,
it's a great investment.
Good.
So the next one is under General Government, Council on Aging, a kitchen remodel for $400,000, and 2 administrative SUV replace. These are to replace some older hybrid models that we have, namely Priuses, for $75,000 for Town Hall.
Excellent.
The next one is the Sewer Enterprise, the preliminary treatment bar screen and grit chamber rebuild, $225,000, and water pollution control facility upgrade evaluation for $500,000. DPW Solid Waste Enterprise, they're looking for a dual arm, a MAC arm, 35 cubic yard recycling truck replacement for $540,000. And finally, on the capital requests, Article 7 is the Dartmouth Community Television, DCTV, for building improvements for $5,000. And that completes the capital requests.
As many of you may know, the town has taken a hard look at our long-range capital at town meeting in the spring. Select Board member Tattlebaum gave a nice presentation on what long-range capital planning is and kind of the process that the town would be following. So we've undergone a series of workshop meetings to look at our community service needs, our public school needs, and our DPW needs. Article 8 goes along with the needs of our schools. So the Dartmouth High School, our newest school, is starting to be at the age where things need to be replaced. So our roof and windows are all in need of replacement. We have applied through the Massachusetts School Building Authority, basically their contribution as part of the project through the Accelerated Repair Program. They meet on October 29th. Our town meeting is obviously before that on October 21st. And so we are asking town meeting to approve $250,000 for a feasibility study for the high school roof. This is a requirement of the MSBA, the School Building Authority. If they approve the project and agree to basically take it on, we're required to do this feasibility study. So if they approve it on the 29th, we will hopefully be good to go if town meeting approves this, and we can start that process. The benefit is the MSBA should fund, we're estimating about half of the cost of a roof, which is significant. You know, a roof for a building the size of a high school, a public project. I think the most recent estimate was in 2022 approximately, and it was around $6 million. We can anticipate that's probably gone up. But even if it were the $6 million, we would love to get $3 million support from the MSBA, and so this is part of that process to evaluate that. And that's why this is not part of the capital plan. The MSBA actually requires that this be done through a separate article at town meeting, and so that's essentially what Article 8 is that we're asking for town meeting to approve. Article 9 is a charter amendment, and this is something that the Select Board is sponsoring. This would essentially change the membership of the Board of Public Works from 3 members to 5 members. So right now it's a 3-member board. The Select Board, in conjunction with the Board of Public Works, has gotten some feedback and feel it would be better suited for our community to make this a 5-member board. They would still be appointed by the Select Board, but essentially, you know, the idea is add 2 more individuals into the mix who can provide quality and their perspective and support the Department of Public Works. I think you see from what we've talked about today, the Department of Public Works is a diverse operation. It's significant beyond the school department. It's our next largest department, encompassing several divisions. And so the Select Board feels that this would be beneficial to the Department of Public Works. Article 10, this is another charter amendment. This is under Section 6.5, Rules and Regulations. The Select Board has really heard a lot of feedback from the community that existing rules and regulations can be changed in a period of 10 days right now. So if rules and regulation were to change, that department makes notice with the town clerk's office, and then there's a 10-day period, posting period essentially, and then it can go into effect. What we've heard is from our business community, from our residents, They feel like they maybe aren't aware of some of these changes. And so this article changes that section of the charter, and it does a few things. The first is it essentially says that any rule regulation change will only go into effect on either January 1st or July 1st. It also requires that there be a 90-day posting period for those changes, still with the town clerk's office. The idea of this is some centralization. If you're someone looking to do business in town, you know for the most part there are 2 dates that regulations would change. If they were to change, you know where to look out for them, and there's a longer period of posting. I will note that in this there is a clause that allows for, if there were a circumstance that a regulation needed to be go into effect outside of July 1st or January 1st, that could occur, but there just needs to be a public hearing posted and held by the select board. So this is something that the board feels would be beneficial to the community, hence we're bringing it forward to town meeting for their review. As with any charter change, not only does this have to pass town meeting, it then has to go off to the Attorney General's office for the Attorney General to review the legality, and as long as the Attorney General signs off, it then actually goes to the ballot. The town would have to vote on these in the April 2026 election. Article 11, this is a general bylaw amendment. And Chapter 9, the Dartmouth Council on Aging. You'll see when you get your warrant that there are several changes here. They're italicized and the deletions are struck out. What it essentially does is it makes it clear to match our current practice of the COA being an advisory board. And so it really adds in advisory board into several spots throughout the bylaw, and allows for the select board to appoint honorary members. It doesn't really change much beyond that clear division of being an advisory board. Article 12 is a personnel bylaw amendment, and this is a new position. So Gary, I believe in July, the town hired a substance use program coordinator. It's a non-union position, so we just need to create it per our non-union bylaw. Right?
Yes, that's correct.
Schedule A within our non-union employees. This is being funded partially by opioid settlement funds. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So the town was awarded the opioid settlement funds a few years ago now, and there's a complement to have a portion of the salary paid through that, and then a portion through the budget, and then wean that off as we go along and have it self-supported in the budget down the road. And it's a great program, community outreach through DART, that the town's involved with, and having this position is very important in town. It helps to make the awareness to the public, right. And I'm happy that we've got the position funded and able to have somebody in that spot.
Yeah, I think the first example of one of the things that the individual in this position has done was the overdose awareness event, which was held in front of Town Hall at the end of August. And it was a great event. We actually had the Attorney General attend the event and stayed for several hours. She spoke and shared some personal experience. We had previously held an overdose awareness event, but this position really has helped coordinate all of that and is doing a lot working with our schools. Recently, we had a joint meeting between the Select Board and the School Committee, and some of that partnership was highlighted in our goal for further collaboration and our One Dartmouth approach. And this is just one example of a position that is really supporting One Dartmouth, right? That's not a specific department, but the community as a whole. And that's our goal. So that's great. Article 13 is an appropriation from the Community Development Block Grant Program Income Revolving Fund for community development activities. Again, for those that have been town meeting members for some time, you may recall previously seeing something like this. The town previously took part in the Community Development Block Grant Program. That was replaced by the Housing Rehab Program, which is funded through Community Preservation Act funds. And that was around 2010 that was replaced. Since then, if you were a resident or a homeowner who took part in the CDBG, is what we call it, program, and you sold your home or had to pay back those funds, we are able to then appropriate those funds for community development activities. So that's really what it is here today at the town meeting. It's a transfer from the Community Development Block Grant account to a community development account. And that allows us to use it for things like grant technical assistance, matching funds for grants is another good example of this, planning studies, affordable housing initiatives, or other just community development and program administration costs. So we've used this for several different things in the past. Grant matches has been a big piece of this. If we have a smaller grant that's mid-year and we want to act on it, this account allows us to jump right in and say, okay, yes, we could provide a $20,000 grant match, for instance. So it allows us to be more competitive and allows us to also provide better community development initiatives. The account currently has approximately $170,000 in it. So even after this $100,000 appropriation, we still would have about $70,000 left. As we went through that $100,000, if approved at town meeting, in a future town meeting, we would look for another appropriation, probably for the same thing, because we found this to be quite successful. Article 14 is something that our Board of Assessors have recommended, and it is regarding the increase to the elderly tax exemption. So tell us a little bit about it, Gary, what that would do for someone who qualifies, and what is the impact on the budget in town?
This is a great program that's offered by the Mass General Law, under Mass General Law. We currently offer $500. It would increase it to $1,000 on the exemption. It is eligibility requirement, and you have to be 70 years of age. There are 90 residents right now that participate in that. Currently, it's an impact of about $45,000. That will increase to $90,000, and that's hit to an overlay account, which we have, and the overlay has a healthy balance of about $1.9 million.
Excellent.
So it's a great program offered through the Board of Assessors, which we work closely with the Council on Aging, and have them working communication with each other on anybody that's eligible for this program.
Wow,
on an
that's
ongoing
great.
basis.
You now have a recap of the 14 articles that you'll see at the town meeting on October 21st. Once again, that will be held at the Dartmouth High School auditorium. Town meeting, we plan to start promptly at 7 p.m. As long as we have a quorum. So we request that you please get there early, as close to 6 p.m. as possible. That's when the town clerk will begin the check-in process. We recognize that you are, we're cognizant of your time, and we hope to get through these articles as promptly as possible and make sure that we answer all of your questions. And we look forward to seeing you all at town meeting. Thank you, Gary.
Thanks.
This is great.